Okay, before we begin, let me just make a few more announcements. CLE reminders, if you haven't filled the form out and you haven't put it into the box outside by the registration area, it's not going to be, the form will not be forwarded to your bar by the court. So hopefully you've all put that together and it'll be taken care of by us. Okay, so if you need to do it, okay, last chance to do it. Okay, evaluations. As a reminder, could you please fill the evaluations out, and that way we'll know what we can do to improve for next year, or next time, and we appreciate the input. And then before we close up, I just want to let you know, as soon as we're done here, the Bar Association will begin their program. But on behalf of myself, Judge Greenberg, Judge Sholin, and the committee, we want to thank you for your participation and hope that you've enjoyed it and that you've learned a lot. And I'd like to, at this time, call upon Chief Judge Davis to close the conference out, this portion of the conference out. Thank you. I'm supposed to tell you that the bar program is in this room, so as soon as we're done, you stay here.
Well, what a fantastic 2 days, day and a half. Unfortunately, all good things must come to an end, but this has been a real treat to me to get to see everybody, to spend some time to the issues, the topics, the panels were just thrilling and insightful, and I think we could have gone on for several more hours in many of these topics. Judge Sholin shaking her head, no, I think we did good. And it has. I wanted to thank, obviously, the Judicial Conference Program Committee for all the hard work you put into making this really a quite wonderful success. My colleagues on that committee, Judges Sholin, Peach, and Greenberg, all the volunteers who have a hand in making these things go well, and I know how important your volunteer work and efforts are, and there's always people to thank for successful programs like this. But I enjoyed this conference from the first panel on legal trends. Not quite Judge Allen's, but it was good. They were very good. They were very good. We missed our colleague, Judge Allen. I had to embarrass him a little bit, but doing his legal trends. But it was fantastic. I mean, I loved the discussion with David and Amy, and who else was on that panel? Who was it? Stacey Ray, right? Hey, what am I, chopped liver? You were the moderator. You moderated. And last but not least, Judge Greenberg. But, I wish we had time for questions with the class actions group, because that was phenomenal. I mean, they've been with us for 2 years, and they tracked where we were, what we've been doing. I can't say enough about Amy. I need to talk to her afterwards, because she's just been working so hard with the Rules Advisory Committee. Appeals reform, everything that we are in the middle of dealing with. This is exciting. Of course, the interview with Nina Totenberg was phenomenal. I often am on that station when they're doing the fundraising part. And you might remember some of that, if you contribute, you get a Nina Toten bag, right? I didn't say that when she was here, but I figured I'd share it with you all today. And then the committee reports were excellent, tremendous. It gave us a window into what the committees have been doing. So thank you all very much for coming and participating. We had a wait list. We had more people than we could accommodate. Very nice facility. This venue is wonderful, isn't it? So I think we'll maybe want to come back here someday. But Judge Sholin and I won't be here for that planning process, but we might come back anyway. But thank you so much. This has been an outstanding conference, and I look forward to the next. This was like a great dinner, so the Bar Association is going to be like a wonderful dessert. So, and that dessert will start now. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for staying for our program. I hope it's going to be more like a post-dinner cocktail than a dessert, but we'll see. We've planned a great program for you today. The first piece of it will be an opportunity for us to all get to know Judge Falvey a little bit better. We've planned a Q&A session, which will be moderated by Judge Falvey's clerk and the secretary to the Bar Association, Chris Wysokinski. And Chris is also in charge of our social media, and we have 2 new social media accounts where you can follow us on Instagram and at LinkedIn, so please meet us on the IG. And then after, he's our social media guru. You know, now I'm getting up there, so I'm an old, you're our millennium leader there, Chris. After the Meet the Judge session, we have been fortunate to, for the 3rd year in a row, host a program called VA Behind the Scenes. We have some of VA's top folks here to tell us how the agency has been doing in the past year. We have Mary Flynn from OGC, Chairman Mason. We also have Dick Hippolyte and Dave McClanahan, so we look forward to that. I know that Chief Judge Davis especially has been fond of this program, so we're proud and pleased to be able to present it again. So with that, I'm going to hand it on over to Chris. Thank you.
Torn between these 2 microphones. Can everybody hear me okay? All right. And as the pattern has been, we're going to dispense with the biographical section. It's on the website, so you can read all of Judge Falvey's impressive biography on there. We first started by preparing some questions from the Bar Association members who did not attend the conference because they're practiced in other states. And we, as Chief Judge Davis mentioned, did not have room for everybody who wanted to attend. So we'll start with the online questions, and then if we have time, we'll move to some Q&A with the audience. So one of the most common questions that were submitted, the general theme was, how has your military background informed your judicial philosophy?
Now, I have to begin with a disclosure. Chris shared these questions with me in advance, and but I did agree to answer all of them except one. I did strike one question, and that was a question that anonymous submission, apparently, that who is your favorite clerk? And I said that just wouldn't be fair to answer that publicly. And then Chris tried, well, how about who's your favorite male clerk? Which,
who works in your chambers?
Who works in your chambers? And he thought that he'd narrowed it down to the question I could possibly answer. The other thing, so I'm going to answer all the questions that were submitted. The other thing was that I wanted to say is that I had agreed to do this previously, and I agreed, gee, let's do it at a real informal kind of event, maybe involving alcohol. And then there was a snowstorm, and they were thinking of canceling it, and I thought, well, this is perfect. There'll be even fewer people there then. Let's go ahead and go forward with it. And the other was I said, well, let's limit this to just a few minutes where I'm not hindering people's departure, and I'm down to 10 minutes now. And I haven't answered a question yet, so. What was the question again?
How has your military background informed your judicial philosophy?
Okay. My military background, I wouldn't say that my military background has affected or informed my judicial philosophy, really. Other than the fact that I was raised with a tremendous sense of duty by my father, who was a career Air Force officer, and that sense of duty is what drew me to the Marine Corps. It's what drew me to the law, and it's something that I take very, very seriously. Duty, the notion of what one's duty is, and I recall at a time during my military service where, in the Marine Corps at least, each and every time you're promoted, they make you swear the same oath. And my brother, who was an Air Force officer, inquired, he made the point that in the Air Force, they take the oath once, and they assume that the oath has taken, and that you don't need to take it again and again and again. And why is the Marine Corps, they don't trust you, that you're going to keep your word, they make you repeat that oath. And my point to him was, well, an oath is really is supposed to awaken the conscience. That's why when someone goes into court and they're sworn to tell the truth, it's to awaken their conscience of their duty, in that case, to tell the truth, to faithfully fulfill their duty, and to note the seriousness of what the undertaking is. In that sense, this sense of duty that I have that came from my military background informs my view of the role of a judge, which I think one of the other questions we're going to get to, and that is that my duty is to faithfully interpret and apply the law. And it's something I take really, really seriously. I think that my military service will help me be a judge. I've been a Marine. I've been a commander of Marine, a leader of Marines. I've been a criminal defense counsel in the Marine Corps, a criminal prosecutor in the Marine Corps, a trial judge, an appellate judge. And I think all that will helps me understand what the veteran's going through, and the fact that I've been a litigator on both sides of the aisle, that I've been an agency counsel, as I was with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It helps me understand what all of you are facing and what your perspective, where you're coming from. So I think my military duty will help me be a better judge.
Sure. We also have a question about your academia and how that academic background has prepared you and impacted your judicial philosophy.
It has not. I know there's some academics in the room, and I can say that there's an old adage, I've shared this with my colleagues on the court before, is that the faculty meetings are so contentious because the stakes are so low. I'm very pleased that Board of Judges meetings and en banc conferences, everything are nowhere near like faculty meetings. They're not contentious at all, and that's it was a little surprising to me, given that the stakes are very high, actually, especially for the individual veteran involved.
I think since we have the time, we can throw in an extra question.
Well, we are down to 7
You're doing well. I mean, how is your family background? I mean, there's an article on the court's website mentioning the Notre Dame article that talks about your family. So if anybody's interested in that, please check that out. But how has your background as a father impacted your judicial decision making?
Now, that wasn't on the list, but it hasn't. And here's why. Because those of you who are parents, I have 9 kids of a broad range of ages. And a parent's role is to make the law, interpret the law, and then enforce the law. And so in a sense, it's informed my judicial philosophy, because my view of a judge is not so complete as that. A parent is a benevolent dictator. Judges are not.
Benevolent.
Well, benevolent.
As we've learned over the last couple of days, veterans laws can be fairly complex, and I was curious what aspects of veterans law has been the hardest for you to get used to?
The acronyms, some of the phraseology, at least as likely as not, things like that, kind of too many negatives in those sorts of things. And the reality is, though, it's the complexity of it, Judge Toth told me that he thought that the learning curve was about 9 months till you found yourself kind of comfortable. I've now been in it for 11 months, and I perhaps am not as quick a study as he, because I wouldn't profess such a comfort level. In my preparation for my confirmation, the nomination process, I did a lot of reading, and I won't claim to have read the Veterans Benefit Manual from cover to cover, but I read a lot and still had no clue the complexity and the vastness of it. It's really a tribute to those of you who are, and a lot of you are, subject matter experts in this. And many of my colleagues are, maybe all my colleagues are. I am not, and I really have to give credit to you all because it is a very complex area of the law that has developed over centuries, and maybe we can skip a question about what we can do systemically, which I don't really have an answer for. But if I were the benevolent dictator of veterans law, I would find a way to start over from, with a more coherent, comprehensive, simple system that really could move fast. But again, I'm not a benevolent dictator.
What veterans law case do you think is the most significant in the past 10 years?
I think that Monk, both the Federal Circuit decision and our court's decision, is very significant. It holds a lot of promise. It presents a lot of pitfalls and challenges. And as was noted earlier today, it was a 4-4 decision, and I'm the 9th judge. So this could get interesting.
Sure. What do you see as the most pressing issue or issues in the veteran benefits system?
It's the amount of time that things take, the delay, and it's hard for me as both a veteran and as a judge on this court to see the age of some of these veterans and how long some of their disputes with VA have been going on.
I guess we kind of covered the change in the system, but any other thoughts on that?
Well, the only thing I would add about that, again, the role of the judge is not to suggest change to the entire system, nor do I have the subject matter expertise to talk about that. But I'm sure everyone, whether it's veterans advocates, the VA, the court, everyone would agree that a faster, more efficient system would be a great opportunity.
Which Supreme Court justice, if any, does your judicial philosophy align with?
Well, before yesterday, I could have named several. But after Ms. Totenberg dumped on them, I'd hate to align myself with
which good justices?
So let me instead tell you what my judicial philosophy is, I guess. So it's said that we're a nation of laws, not men. That might be Marbury versus Madison, I think, Judge Greenberg. I can't get as far back to Hayburn, but and the judge's role in that government of laws, not of men, is to faithfully interpret and apply the law. And that is to say what the law is, not what the law ought to be. If a judge goes beyond that, they're making law. They're making law far from the policy-making arena of Congress or the informed rulemaking of the agencies. And they've gone beyond that into to making law. Unlike Ms. Tottenberg, I think I agree with her that I don't want Nancy Pelosi making law, nor do I want Donald Trump making law, but I do want the Congress of the United States to make the law. I don't want courts to make law. And of course, with the agencies making rules pursuant to their authorities. The judge's role is then to just say what the law is, and that's a question of interpretation. And you, in my view, you look to the ordinary, plain meaning of the words at the time of the enactment. You rely on sound canons of construction. You're bound by precedent, unless you're the Supreme Court, or an en banc court like us can overturn our own precedent. And the last aspect of my judicial philosophy is kind of that the litigants, and this might come from my role as having served on various sides of the aisle, is that the judges should treat the parties with basic human dignity in both their oral arguments and in the opinions that they're expressed. And then my whole goal here is just to get it right, not to necessarily not get overturned. I'm sure that will happen, but to just get it right. That's the goal.
What one tip would you give the private attorneys in the room and listening to the recording to provide high quality representation?
Well, let me begin by saying I've been very impressed with the private bar, especially oral argument. I found each of the oral arguments I've participated in very helpful, making me realize how many of you are subject matter experts because you know it so well and present it so well. The best piece of advice, that in your briefs, don't shotgun it. Clearly define the issue. And I really, as Judge Allen mentioned yesterday, I too really appreciate the table of contents and have a kind of a roadmap of your argument right there in the table of contents.
And then, I suppose not for the other side, but what tip would you give board judges and the attorneys to issue high-quality decisions?
Again, I've been very impressed with the board judges' decisions, especially understanding the time constraints that they're operating under. The only advice I would give there might be to not dance around a finding. A good example might be credibility. If you're not finding them credible, say you're not finding them credible, no matter how hard that might be to say that in writing. And to avoid dancing around issues.
And then what do you think could be done to generate more interest in veterans law amongst the broader legal community?
I think the law clinics that the law schools are doing is great. I remember back in 2005 or 6, I tried to get probably 5 or 6 law schools interested in a veterans law clinic and got no takers. And now, I don't know how many there are now, 50, 60, 70 going on. Notre Dame's got a group here that's looking at exploring an opening one. But I think it's tremendously helpful to both expand interest in veterans law among the broader legal community, but also to get some great opinions, great oral argument. I was stunned at the Yale law students that argued before us. Beyond that, raise EJA fees. That would get some interest. Get rid of the EJA offset for same work before the agency and the court. Oh, wait, we already did that.
I don't know if you said the nicest things about some of the practitioners in that. So.
Well, I'm sorry. Like I said, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know yet. So
And then probably one of the most pressing questions, is a hot dog a sandwich?
that's a very it's a question that has vexed some of the greatest legal minds of this country, including Judge Posner, who was talked about this morning, Judge Scalia. But it's really a question of really interpretation, right? What does it mean to be a sandwich? So you'd look to a definition, a dictionary definition, and I'll propose one: meat, cheese, or other food product between two or more slices of bread consumed with your hands. So, given that definition, which question whether it's ambiguous or not, given that definition, I would say that a hot dog is not a sandwich because it is not two or more slices of bread. We could talk about things like, well, do you call them hot dog sandwiches, or do you call them, is a hamburger a sandwich?
What about a
do you call it a
hoagie, though?
hamburger sandwich?
What about a hoagie? Because it's a bun, it's one piece. You would,
A
it is a
hoagie.
sandwich, undeniably.
Was a burrito a sandwich or a taco? I mean, come on.
I think we have case law on tacos.
A hot dog is, I would have to seek briefs from both parties. And
Would you defer to an agency's interpretation of?
I'm still waiting on Kaiser for that.
Very good.
And I think we used up all our time, so.
Judge Falvey, thank you very much for that really informative discussion of statutory interpretation. As a token of our appreciation, the Bar Association would like to present you with this bottle of Cabernet Sauvignon from
Very
the
good.
Valor Winery in San Francisco. Valor Winery is a veteran-run, owned winery where they not only is it owned by a veteran, but it also has programs to teach veterans how to grow grapes, make wine, and the business aspect of it as well. So it's like Dog Tag Bakery, just on the alcohol side. So thank you.
And the other coast.
Yes, exactly. So thank you
you.
so much.
Thank you.
Now I know how to argue a statutory interpretation case before you.